Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video and welcome to a new outline with me. Because I have gotten halfway through my contemporary romance book that I'm writing for this contest and also writing to send out to publishers. I have been sitting for the last, I think 3 hours or 2 hours trying to figure out what I did wrong with the midpoint and how I'm gonna go from here. So welcome to this new video. I hope you're excited because now we're gonna outline the rest of the book and try to fix the things that I did wrong in the middle. So first off, it's my first time vlogging with this camera, so we'll have to wait and see how it goes. So let me just tell you what happened, okay? I have been writing at least 800 words a day, or been trying to do that. Some days I have written more and some days I have written less than that. But I'm trying to finish this book in hopefully 2 to 3 months. And I started writing it the 26th of March and I outlined it at the same time. Now it's the, 9th of May. So I have been writing this for a little over a month. But my issue was that when I did that outline with me video, I can link that in one of these corners and also in the description below. My issue was that I only outlined the first half of the book. And this is always the thing when I write books. I think I know my characters when I start writing, but when I actually get to know them and when they get to know each other and themselves throughout the book, I get to know them better and I realize that my first outline may be a little bit off and I need to clarify certain things in the beginning chapters, or I need to change the midpoint in some way. And so I have written the midpoint. I wrote it last week, I think, because I wrote the midpoint at around 35,000 words and now I'm at 43,000 words. So between those word counts, I have written the midpoint. I still needed to sit down and figure out what I was gonna do for the rest of the book. When I was thinking about that, I realized that the midpoint was off. Midpoint is supposed to be like this turning point for both characters and for the relationship. So it's a romance. It's supposed to be a turning point for the romance if it's a first kiss or they realize they have feelings for each other or something of the sorts. And so I don't have a first kiss in the midpoint because this is a slow burn and I have decided that I'm gonna drag it out as long as I can and like build the tension as long as I can, because I'm not dragging it out in a negative way. It's a positive thing, I think. So they're having an almost kiss at the midpoint, but nothing more. So I needed the midpoint to be about my two characters and one certain thing happening affecting both of my characters and them dealing with the consequences, because that's the second half of Act 2, is them dealing with the consequences of what happened at the midpoint. So when I couldn't get further than the midpoint and I realized, wait a minute, I need to sit down and think about this, I realized that the midpoint was off. I've been sitting down and I'm like, I have a headache because of this, okay? Not okay, I'm not okay. I have been sitting down, going back to my character sheets, going through my characters' fears, what their goals are, and trying to tweak the midpoint just a tiny bit to make it fit the characters better. Because what I had did work, but I needed to add something more. And I had a scene later on in the book, like after the midpoint, that I really liked. That was part of my male character's whole character development. And I realized that that came in way too late and that scene needed to happen at the midpoint, because otherwise my female character would have a really heartbreaking midpoint and my male character was just there for like fun and games. He was just there doing nothing. I mean, he realized he had feelings for her at the midpoint, but his character development didn't change with the midpoint and his plan going forward didn't change, and so I needed to work on this, okay? I needed to work on my own understanding of my characters and I needed to change the midpoint. So I've been sitting and doing that. I also realized that I don't really have much going on for the second half of the second act. The only thing that I know for sure is that I want to have more romantic scenes between my two characters. If that is one scene or two scenes, I don't know, but I need to brainstorm scenes to put in the second half of the second act. And the other thing I know is the break into 3 and the big disaster moment and what they're building towards for Act 3. I know what that point is. I know what scene is gonna be there. I know what characters is gonna be there, and I have already begun working on the climactic confrontation in the end. So I know that, but it's a part between the midpoint and the break into 3 that I need to fill out with something. Other updates, which also has with the outlining to do. I talked about this a little bit, I think, with the update, like the romance book update that I did. I talked about the timeline being maybe off, or that I was unsure about the timeline. Giving them only 1 week to do the things that they are doing was too short. And I have realized this. So what I did was change that. I'm giving them a month instead. So the first half of the second act is 2 weeks and the second half of the second act is also 2 weeks, which meant that I needed to space out the things happening in that 1 week. I needed to take 1 or 2 of those scenes and put it into the second act so that they would still have the character developments and the relationship building. It's the same kind of arc, but it's happening over a longer amount of time. So I have changed the middle part of the book quite a lot, and I actually took 3 whole chapters from the first half of the second act and put it in the second half. I need to rework some scenes because of this, and I have written some notes for myself like this will not work here now, you need to change this because this is not there anymore. So changing my whole outline halfway through is a lot of work, but it needs to be done because otherwise I don't think this would have been a good book at all. I'm still unsure about this new outline, and I will need to read through it after I'm done with it to actually see if it works or not. If it doesn't work, then I need to scrap this whole idea that I'm gonna send a book into that contest because I don't have time. But I feel better now that I have changed it, and now we just need to fill out the second half of the book with new scenes and chapters, and then I can start writing again. So today I'm taking a break off from actually drafting, and I'm only gonna outline. And I'm gonna take you with me on the second part of outlining this book. Okay. That's wild. That's honestly wild that I got that idea while talking to you guys, and now I have written it down, and I love that scene now because I had an idea that I wanted to have the subtle jealousy trope. Not that the male character gets really possessive and aggressive and like caveman style, you are mine, but him like getting a little bit grumpy. He's a grump. His standard level is grumpy, but he gets another level of grumpy because he gets jealous. And by this point, the characters haven't confessed anything. So what I think is that subtle jealousy that I wanted to have in this book fits right into my first kiss scene and the confession scene. So I feel really good about that actually. So my plan I think now is to take a little bit of a break. I'm gonna finish watching Queen Charlotte because I have like 20 minutes left on the last episode. I love the show so much. I think it's so good. I like the romance, and especially the actress playing young Queen Charlotte. I think she's so good. So that's the update that I have for you now. I had a plan of going into Stockholm, like into the city, and buying books today, but I know that I need to sit with this and figure out the rest of my book today. So we're gonna do that after lunch. Okay, I have eaten lunch. I looked over like how many words I've written so far, which is 43,984 words, but I think 900 of them are like outlining things that I had just put in a document or put in a chapter. I think because I moved those 3 chapters from the first half of the second act to the later half, I needed to fill out the space that left in the first half. And because it is 2 weeks, I also need to like fill out those 2 weeks. They need to do more things or drag out certain things just to make the plot flow better. But I think I like the fast-pacedness that this has right now. I'm adding a bunch of new chapters, going through my outline for the rest of the chapters surrounding them and putting in new things. But that just means that someday, not today because I don't have the energy or motivation to do so, but someday I need to sit down and go through every single chapter of the second act and read the outline, see if anything is new, and then go into the chapter, reading that over and changing that up so it fits my new outline. And this is the thing with outlining just half of it, you can really fall into the trap of editing. I don't want to be editing this book. At the same time, I wanted to have an outline so good that I didn't need to edit much after. I wanted to have a clean first draft. It's not turning out to be a clean first draft. I think I need to fix the first half of this book and fill those chapters in and go through the rest of the chapters before I continue writing, because I want to have a cleaner first draft, okay? I'm back from the walk. I thought that it would be really cold outside. Guess what? It was not. So I'm very hot right now. It's just beginning to be summer, I guess, here in Sweden. Here we have a fun package. It says, a cozy book box from Förlag. You know, my publisher. We're gonna open this together because I love doing these unboxings with you. Just to clarify, I have bought this with my own money to support the publisher and these authors because this is their fantasy box. Okay, let's open it. Oh my god! I love opening packages. Let me just say that. The first thing we pick up is the letter, and then we pick up this one. And what I didn't notice the last time that I did an unboxing, and I can link that in one of these corners and also in the description below, that was their Easter box with 2 like contemporary romances. But what I didn't notice is that on this, there's one of the books in this box, and there's mine. There's mine. Just fun things. And actually, I just figured out how to put my book on Goodreads and also claim an author profile. So I can link my Goodreads, I guess, below if you want to add my book. It's said to be a survival kit. So let's open it. Oh my god, yes! 2 prints. I think this one is for the dystopian book by Lovisa Wikström, and I actually think this is AI art, which I know there's a big debate on whether you should like use AI art or support that, but I mean this is really cool, so I'm not mad at it. And then we have another print, which I do believe is the characters from the other book, which is a urban fantasy called Nattkrigaren, and this is by an artist. Then we have candy, Sprinkles Bits. Sprinkles Bits, that was a really odd name, I'm not gonna lie, but I mean candy is it always works. It's said to be a survival kit, and I do see some survival things. Waterproof matches, a water bottle, which is also useful. Really cute, actually. And then we have a first aid kit. So, you know what? These are not your typical fun book box items. You know what it is? It is accurate to the books. Because one is a dystopian, and you know you always need these things in a dystopian book. And then one is a urban fantasy. So it stays on theme. That is what I can say about this book box. And I think this is one of my favorite book boxes from them, because here we have 2 very nice bookmarks. Here we have one of them, and that's for Blodskymning by Lovisa Wikström. It's in Swedish, so I don't want to translate, but then we also have a bookmark on the urban fantasy book, which also has one of these. And then we have the books. So first off, we have the urban fantasy book, and here's the cover. And it's by Sabine Mikkelsson. Then we have the dystopian novel, which is called Blodskymning, and it's by author Lovisa Wikström, which is, I think, a huge fantasy author in Sweden. And she's also a very big romance feel-good author in Sweden. And I have 2 of her other books. This is called Rovmärkt, and it's a dystopian fantasy romance, which is set in a like near future. And then this is her fantasy novel, which is Mermaids. I think this is kind of inspired by Hunger Games. It's set in a world where the women rule, and like the men is sent to this Hunger Game thing to die and kill off each other. It's her signature, and then it says run as a quote. Don't mind me, I'm just beginning to read this book. I think both of them are gonna be so good, and just thinking that I am gonna get one of these book boxes in the future, that is mind-blowing to me. Since I'm back from the walk and getting this book box, I am gonna do more planning and outlining in my book. That's the only purpose I have for this day. So I'm gonna continue to do that, and I will update you along the way. And I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm gonna keep it short, okay? But let's get to more outlining, I guess. Welcome to my desk. Here is how my Act 2 is looking currently. Here's all the chapters, and I currently have 30 whole chapters in the second act. Yesterday, I actually wrote a completely new chapter. It ended up being almost 1,000 words. You can see it here, if we can just focus. There we go. 982 words in chapter 16, and I have added 2 more chapters, chapter 18 and chapter 19. And these 3 chapters kind of made up for the chapters that I put in the second half of the second act. Now I have outlined every single thing in the book. Every single thing, every single chapter. So I'm all done with that, but what I actually found was that I had outlined the third act and the third act conflict and everything. And ever since I got this idea, I knew that I wanted the third act to be like, of course, both of my main characters are gonna have their moments, but I have made up in my mind that it needed to be this very big confrontation for both of my characters. Not like really a fight, but a big confrontation, a dramatic kind of scene. It needed to be the drama. So I wrote that as the ending and the final confrontation. But today I got a new idea, because I have gathered that not every romance novel should have a third act breakup. Like, my novel doesn't have a third act breakup. It has a third act conflict, but it doesn't have a breakup, which I think is very important to point out. It has a third act conflict, it has a conflict in the end that needs to be resolved between my two characters, but it is not a breakup. So that's one thing. Then I really thought about the differences between genres, because when I write fantasy romances or fantasy novels, I tend to write really dramatic endings where people are literally dying and you have to save the world kind of deal. And since writing in a new genre, which is contemporary, nothing magical is happening, there's no life and death situations here, I need to figure out a better way to write the climactic confrontation than having this big battle scene, essentially. So I originally thought that I was gonna have a big dramatic confrontation. The climactic confrontation doesn't really have to be that dramatic. It just has to show that the characters are facing the consequences of their actions in the book, and that they are showing how they are different from the beginning of the book. They need to motivate their own character arc, essentially. Or you as the author need to motivate how they have changed and how they come across their fear or this problem from a different angle in the end. And to show that they have grown, I guess. I have changed now the third act conflict or the scene. It's still the same, it still has the same heart. And my character's gonna learn the same things from this confrontation. It's not gonna be as dramatic and a big spectacle or a big fight. I don't want that. I just want for my characters to have like an emotional third act conflict, but nothing dramatic and nothing like a spectacle. So I actually did that this morning, and now with a new outline, I still have 49 chapters and an epilogue, so it's still the same chapter length. Now I'm actually really excited to write the third act. I kind of think this needed to happen for me to get the motivation to finish this book, because I often feel like when you get to the halfway point, it's almost like its own milestone. When you have reached the midpoint, you can give yourself a pat on the back, good job, but then you need to find the motivation and the inspiration with the project to continue, because half a book is still not a book. I think that's what I needed. And today is the 11th of May, so it's been 2 days since I outlined this book, and I'm finally done with the outline. As far as I'm happy with it as it is now, I still have to write 2 chapters in the beginning of Act 2 to fill out that gap that happened when I took out 3 chapters out of there. I want the midpoint to be around 35,000 words or 40,000 words still. And then I need to rework the actual midpoint chapters. But I'm gonna keep working on this and actually start a writing vlog this time for me writing the second half of the book. And hopefully it's gonna go smoothly and it's gonna go quickly, because it is almost halfway through May, and I wanted to be done with this in May. I'm not gonna be done with this in May, but I wanted to. So with that said, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and leave a like and a comment below and let me know how you outline. I feel like it was a good decision to outline half of the book and then outline the rest of this like I did in this video, but it also made me realize that it is slowing down the process a lot more than when I usually draft. I tend to draft everything at once in 2 to 3 months, and that was my plan for this. And considering I'm halfway at 11th of May, I can do this in 3 months, but it is slowing down the process a lot. And it also made me edit the things that I had already written, which is not ideal for me, at least when I draft. I want to draft everything at once and think about the editing later, because if I go back, I will never leave that. I will just continue to edit and make it better, and the momentum that I got when I started drafting leaves. And this has kind of happened, but I was able to write 900 something words yesterday, which is good, I think. And I'm hoping to write at least 800 words today. Even if I'm editing or writing a new chapter, I want to get further along in the word count. I don't want to take away whole scenes, I want to add more scenes every day, as far as I'm able, I guess. I'm gonna start that writing vlog now, and thank you again so much for watching. And don't forget to subscribe, because I post a new video every week, every Thursday, and I'll see you in the next one.